Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I hope all of you are having a great day as we, get things kicked off here. We have a little problem reaching our guest, but he should be good to go here in just a moment as we have on with us Tr3dent. Hopefully I'm saying that right, and if not, well, our guest will correct us as we talk about everything that they do and everything that that they do for their customers. So, but before we do that, a couple of things to mention, including computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything and anything for today's show. Be that, the show notes that has a link to our guest website, any articles, videos, demonstrations, anything that we do here on the program can be found right there, just that simply. Also, be sure to check out the website for our contest, brought to you by Logitech. That is our social media contest, and we give away a prize every single Friday. And if you enter, we could be reading your name live on the air. A lot of fun. And then last thing would be the video portion. Watch Computer America and not just listen. So all of that and more at our website. And also we have, I should start pointing attention to it. We have a review of a company that we just had on. I mean, they provide a lot more services and products, but we just reviewed an OWC Mercury Pro hard drive, and that was a lot of fun to do. And you can check that out. It's it's pretty quick review, but at the same time, something you should definitely check out. So for reviews, products, guests and the like, don't worry, we have you covered. All right. So with all of that being said, why don't we go ahead and we're gonna try to call our guests one more time, and then we're going to try our best here. So here we go. So again, I apologize for doing this kind of on the air here, but see if we can do this. Nope, and that didn't work. All right. So with that being said, we have a couple of options we could do here. We could either try to really suss out how to get our guests here program, or we can jump right into computer and technology. So what would be the best thing to do? All right, so how about this? We're going to go ahead and put our guests on standby. Guests, if you're listening, waiting for you to log on to Skype. And in the meantime, we're just going to do computer and technology news, and then when our guest gets here and we can do our interview, hey, we'll jump right into that. So we'll do news, and then we'll wait for our guest, and hey, see how far that takes us. So in the meantime, we will be doing computer and technology, brought to you by Fire Dragon Security. So here we go. All right, so we're actually, our guest so I played the jingle, and our guest, I think, just did this. So let's see if this works. Just one more time. All right, then. And once again, I apologize for doing this. We normally do beforehand, but here we go. So Kevin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Ben, is that you?
Yes, and I can hear you. So I think we're actually all set up right in the nick of time. So everyone, that voice that you hear, that is our guest today. That is Kevin McCaffrey. He is the founder and CEO of a company called Tr3dent. And again, if I'm saying that wrong, hopefully, Kevin, you can correct me. But Kevin, I'm glad that you can make it, and welcome onto the program.
Thank you very much. I'm really, really, really delighted to join you, and looking forward to the chat.
Yeah, so this is going to be a lot of fun. Why don't we go ahead and start from the beginning and talk to us about your company, how it kind of got started, how you founded it, and what is your background that led you to start the company?
Sure. Yeah, a bit of background on myself. I'm Irish, as you probably might have gathered from a bit of an
Right.
accent. And I actually started my career in North America. I started working in Toronto for Reuters, and originally started in the boring area of finance, and moved on then into IT. And from that, then I set up a startup in Toronto, and that went very well for a while. Decided then to move back to Ireland, and started working for a company then doing that was essentially selling billing systems into large mobile cell operators throughout the world. So long story short, I got into sales, pre-sales with them, and ended up running the business unit for Sub-Sahara Africa. So I ended up spending 9 years then down in Cape Town in South Africa, and was during then, as part of that, it was kind of assignment down there. I decided to set up my company, another company down there, and it was at that stage that I came to the conclusion that a lot of high, long IT projects were running into a lot of problems, and a lot of the problems that were coming into wasn't actually directly related to technology. It was actually due to poor communications, poor understanding, and a complete breakdown in many ways between what the business thought they were getting and what the IT guys or the techies were delivering. So I remember, and this kind of comes up to the point as to you were asking with regards to where did I come up with the concept on the business was at a particular meeting, there were a large number of senior executives from the business side, and I had one of the guys that was working for me had put together a kind of a technical architecture, and he presented it and did all the tricks you can in PowerPoint. But within 30 seconds, he had bored the business guys senseless, and they were just looking at their phones and anything. They just wanted to get out of there. So I thought, geez, there must be a better way to visualize business, technical data, so that business people can understand it more. So I actually went home, and my son was playing on the Xbox, and I was looking at it and I was thinking, well, why is that stuff really so cool and great, and the stuff we do in business is just really horrendously boring. Maybe there's a way of kind of bringing these two worlds together. So that's where that was the nub of the concept of where I started on with regards to data visualization. And from that, then I actually hired a gaming developer and a graphics guy, and we started doing a bunch of concepts and really coming up some pretty cool stuff. But then you think, well, how do you make any money doing this? So we then kind of launched a little MVP for ourselves, put some stuff together, and put that out there into one particular sector in the telco sector, and got some pretty interesting responses. And from that, then I decided, well, look, if I got to pursue this, it's a bit difficult to do it from a renovated garage in Cape Town at the tip of Africa. So I decided to move back to Ireland and set up Tr3dent there to continue the dream of kind of building this data visualization organization.
That is an awesome backstory, because this is something that we find with a lot of people, founders and people who start their own companies, is that they use their unique blend of background. Like in your case, going from finance to technology, uh, I don't think a lot of technologists out there actually have that same background. So that's what it takes. It takes someone with a unique background to do something kind of different and not just same thing over and over and over again. So what is your current role at the company? Because obviously, you should be running the day to day, but you also sound like you like to get in and control the projects.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm probably a control freak at heart. And, I guess as a sole founder of the organization, you tend to, do everything from the start. When I moved back to Ireland, it was myself, and I had one developer still in Cape Town. It still is there. And so there were the two of us, and then we kind of had to build up the organization. So, you do absolutely everything, literally from taking the garbage out to business development to sales. You've got to, as a founder in a startup, you've got to roll up the sleeves and be willing to do everything and anything. And I guess having the background in finance helped me, but um, I also, with kind of 20 plus years experience of doing large scale enterprise software projects, I also gained a a strong understanding on things from a technical perspective and a business perspective. And it's kind of, you've got using those skills, as you say, you've got to kind of adapt to what's in front of you. And I think the other important thing is as a founder is also identifying those areas that you need assistance, or that you're not going to be the greatest at. So that's equally to know your strengths, and also know the areas that you can improve on.
So let's get into Tr3dent. That is, it seems to be the company, and then you have a product, and you should kind of get into the product here. Talk about Transformation Accelerator and what it is, and how companies that you deal with actually end up using it.
Yeah, so what we've done is we've developed a strategic business planning platform. So what that means is that people, specifically enterprises, are able to uh, create a strategic plan and direction for key digital transformation projects. So specifically, we do a lot of work in the area of smart cities, IoT, smart health, those types of areas where people are saying, hey, I've got a great idea. Now, what I need to do is figure out how am I going to take that idea and bring it to market. So our product enables them through a proven methodology by integrating with industry best practices to guide them through that process, so that they're able to quickly identify and validate the opportunity, in order for them to then get either the approval, or to take it to market, or to start implementing it. So what we found is that it really helps those companies to reduce the time to market, increases efficiencies as well, and it's done all on a SaaS collaborative tool.
Right. So I mean, so you're offering something different than we've seen other companies that try to increase communication with the company. Think of the things like Slack and whatnot that increase communication between teams. You're actually just there to help with the data part. You're not actually making a new messenger platform for people to use, right?
Well, not, I guess when yeah, not directly as the way Slack would be, but what we enable the people to do, like if we compare what people are doing today. So if Ben decides to head off and create his own, parking service or parking platform for Atlanta or somewhere, how would you do that? Well, in order to come up with that concept, people would typically start using a bit of PowerPoint, maybe some Visio. They may have some data that's buried somewhere in some business process repository, and a bunch of other tools. Well, what we've done is we've taken industry and business best practices, things such as business canvases, frameworks for business processes, integrated those directly into the tool, so that those are at people's fingertips, and they can work collaboratively to do that. Now, on top of that, they could also then integrate with we can integrate this with Jira as well, or for them to actually track activities. And it's got a built-in messenger that you can send real-time messages to people as you're working through it. But the primary purpose really is as a collaborative strategic planning tool that actually creates a single view of the truth, or the source of the information that people need.
So, this it's starting to make sense, but I guess the next question is, you mentioned a couple ways that companies were beforehand, PowerPoints that were super boring, or paper that just wasn't getting around to the right hands, or concepts that weren't being visualized correctly. Why do you feel that technology, and I believe you had a digital transformation, why do you feel this is the next important step for companies? Why isn't it maybe a liaison who's better at explaining these concepts? Uh, why do you feel it's a software platform that can really help these companies?
Well, it really all comes down to digital transformation. If we look at it, and we're going through essentially an industrial revolution at the moment. The way things are changing, is phenomenal. And the digital transformation isn't just about it's broader than just, let's say, digitalization. it also does a profound impact on businesses, on their organization, on the people, on the customers, the processes, the competencies, the values. If you look at the way digital has impacted, let's say you take an organization like Tesla. When people buy a Tesla, they're not actually just buying an electric car. What they're buying is an experience, and it's about that experience that is provided through digital transformation, through this concept of a business ecosystem that enables them to do that. And if you take an example for, if you look back at those companies that were on the Fortune 500 list in the year 2000, you know, less than 50% of those companies exist. They've gone by the wayside, and they purely because of not reacting to the digital world. There are numerous examples that we have on that. So this is more than a fad. This concept is radically changing the way we all live, and it's not just about the digital element of it, but it's the experience and the broader impact that has on the people, the processes, and the organizations.
So, and to tie this into our show yesterday, for anyone who was listening, we had a great guest on. Was talking greatly about Gen Z. That was a term that we kept throwing around. The generation born after the year 2000. They're just now coming into the workforce, and kind of a similar story to your son, where you were sitting there watching him play Xbox, and he was engrossed by this experience. We're going to start seeing Gen Z come into the workforce, and they only know digitalization. They only know computers. They only know smartphones. To have it on a screen is just, obvious. So do you see this as something that all industries should start to look at? Because, the workforce coming in, they're going to kind of expect that level of digital.
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily just looking at the screens or looking at their phones or whatever. I think it's again, as I'm saying, about the experience. But absolutely, excuse me, if you consider 5-10 years ago, any enterprise application, the whole UI on it was absolutely shocking. It was crap. It looked horrible, right? And many of them still do. But it's like, how come when I go home, I'm using Facebook, or I'm using whatever app I'm using on my phone, and it looks pretty good and it's got some nice UX on it. But then when I go into work, it has to look horrible. What's that about? That doesn't make any sense. And that's the Gen Zs aren't going to tolerate that. The generation prior to that, they're saying, well, we're not either. We want to change. We want to adapt. So this whole idea of consumerization of enterprise applications is a very important factor. You look at the way that organizations, whether it's the Oracles, whether it's Salesforce, those types of companies are changing their UI to make it more acceptable and usable for their end users. So I think that's an important aspect of it as well. But I also think today's there's a concept. I kind of look at it almost as generation now. Everything has to happen now. You know what I mean? Nothing can wait. I can't wait for the 6 o'clock news. You've got to find it immediately, or you can't read the results of the baseball in the paper in the morning. You're going to have to get it immediately. So that's the expectation that this generation has, and those companies that don't start fulfilling that, and that comes down to what we're trying to do with our product, in that we need to make that information readily available in real time to people in order to make the decisions. And it's not in a boring Excel list, or it's not in some convoluted diagram that has a bunch of lines that nobody can understand that looks like hieroglyphics. It's in something that's practical and adaptable, but also intuitive enough for the person to look at it and see, I know what that is. That makes sense. Yep, I'm going to click there. And this is there when the next evolution on this starts coming in, where you start looking at more with regards to taking this visualization literally to the next dimension, which is doing things like holographic, using mixed reality. All of those things are where things have to evolve from a business perspective.
You are looking, and part of me would say, wow, you're really looking into this. but at the same time, I know after talking with a couple of our guests that, you know, augmented reality is already being used to train employees. Virtual reality is being used to visualize certain concepts and do art and things like this. I mean, it's technology that's used sparingly right now. 5 years from now, it might be a mainstay for certain jobs and certain aspects. So part of me says that wow, you're talking Minority Report kind of thing, and at the same time, it's probably just a so. But I do want to say that for anyone out there watching the video portion of the show, we do have your website up, uh, Tr3dent.com. Link in the show notes, of course. But this is a part that I wanted to bring up to you. If you could explain it a bit more, but business ecosystem modeling, and you have these diagrams up here. I didn't get them when I first looked at them, and then I started staring at them while talking with you, and very quickly you kind of see that business modeling ecosystem. It's how how the different parts of your business you have here. I think healthcare, and how they all relate to one another, and that's what you're trying to do in a very visual, very basic way, and the responsibilities one has to the next. Um, and this kind of brings me to my question, which is business ecosystem modeling. Who's doing it right? Who's doing it best? And what industry will probably do this better?
Yeah, well, just to take a little step back for some of your listeners is, I myself 4 or 5 years ago, if somebody had started talking to me about an ecosystem, I would have thought immediately of a pond and tadpoles and the stuff that lives down at the bottom of a pond, in terms of an ecosystem. But it's but the analogy of an ecosystem in nature versus the analogy of a business ecosystem, the comparison are very similar. So a business ecosystem, if we talk about that before we talk about what you need to
Sure.
model, is basically a dynamic network of entities. And those entities can be people, they could be organizations, or they could be things. So there could be sensors from IoT, there could be, a smart parking meter, it could be any of those things. So it's a dynamic network of entities that interact with each other to create and exchange kind of value, a sustainable value for everybody that's participating in that ecosystem. So if we kind of break that apart and you look at it as an example, if you look at those companies, some of the companies that have been incredibly successful over the last 10 years or even less, you look at the Airbnbs, the Ubers, the Amazons, even a Booking.com, Alibaba, those guys, what they have at their core is they basically have built a platform which is platform business model that is using ecosystem, that is based on an ecosystem. So on one side, in their ecosystem, they have a bunch of people who want to go on holidays, go somewhere and stay from an Airbnb point of view. And then you've got someone who has places to stay. So that ecosystem and the way why Airbnb is so successful is because it's built on it provides all of the participants within the ecosystem gain value, and they can do it in an open way, and there's very little barriers for them to actually do what they want to do. So when you talk about modeling, you're looking and saying is, you look at organizations that you wouldn't typically think of that would use strong ecosystems or strong elements like that. And you could take a company like John Deere, who have been making tractors forever, but the amount of investment that John Deere is putting into IoT is incredible, because they're now looking at an entire ecosystem where they're able to connect with different crop, seed producers, everything to do this all through their platform that allows them to provide, instead of them selling a service or a product to the farmer, what they're selling is a service, and they're saying, we're going to help you increase your yield. And the idea of ecosystem modeling and the principle behind it is that you actually would look and decide, well, in order for us to create a new service, how do we do that where the collective of everybody within the ecosystem is going to provide a greater level of value to the end customer than if I tried to do it on my own? So if we go back to the example I used on Tesla, Tesla does not deliver the successful user experience on their own. They do it through an ecosystem with insurance companies, with charging stations, with infotainment, with all of these other organizations that work with them. And in order to be successful within a digital uh, within this digital era, you need to be considering how you're going to do this within a business ecosystem rather than as a siloed approach.
And now that you mention it, I mean, you could really compare and contrast what Tesla's doing. And I know that car companies can't do by law what Tesla's doing by selling directly to customers. But I think the whole car manufacturing to dealership to customer, I think there's a lot of human error in there. I think there's a lot of haggling. There's a lot of I'll throw in this if you reduce this price, if you increase this price. I feel like that's one of those areas that I think could really benefit from a service such as yours, where the someone who's looking to buy a car, they're in the blind. They're in the blind. They're haggling the best they can. They have to scrape information from unsecure sources, and they have to go into something that I think the car dealerships know exactly how much money they're going to make, and it's just a pain in the butt to use every single time you go buy a car. Do you think something like that could really benefit from your product?
Absolutely. If I take another example, there's Philips light bulbs, right? It seems like that's a product. Everybody just goes to the store and you buy some light bulbs. Well, Philips are changing from being a product company to being a service company. So, for example, they're now selling lighting as a service, right? So, for some of the larger airports in Europe, they buy lighting as a service from Philips. So they don't buy light bulbs anymore. Philips takes care of everything for them, and they just have to worry about, you know, that paying whatever the amount is per month to Philips, and they'll take care of all of the stuff. In the same way as if it would be great to use your example of a car, is just to say, hey, look, I can just pay $400 a month, and I've got a car, and I know it's going to be full of petrol every time. It's fully insured. It's going to be cleaned, and all of those things, as a one as part of my experience and part of the value that I'm getting would be incredible, because the frustration of having to, gee, I got to bring this in for service, or I got to go and do this, or I've got to do this, by being able to solve some of those problems will increase the level of satisfaction that somebody would have, and the attractiveness of the service that's being
I
offered by
mean,
those types of
and
organizations.
not to step on your toes, but I will say that that's something we are already seeing, where car companies such as Ford, that we have Waymo from Google, we have many, like
Yeah.
it's not the car makers, it's the tech companies. They're all looking to make these 10,000, 15,000 fleet strong cars that will essentially do an Uber or Lyft style of economy. And yeah, you just pay $5, $10 every time you use it, rather
Hmm.
than having to, make your or have your own car. That's happening. Like, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Like we've got it here as well. In that your go car, and you just go and you subscribe on your app and you park it wherever you want, and it's great. But if and I think that's the way a lot of items will a lot of things will go. But I think to be able to achieve that isn't something that necessarily just one company on their own does. And I think by building up that ecosystem of working with partners and being able to come up with that. And the other thing to point out is that when we talk of these kind of interactions and the way that you deal with your partners, when you're defining this as a business, it's not just about the product and service that you're actually going to be sending between people, and that it's also about the data, right? It's about the information. So really there are five things that are really driving to a large extent this whole um, digital revolution from my perspective. One is the kind of the connectivity, the IoT
Well,
side of it.
actually, Kevin, if you wouldn't mind, we're about to fast run into a break. Would you mind staying over and continuing our conversation?
Sure, yep, that's fine.
Perfect. So everyone out
Perfect.
there, yeah, we're about to head straight into a break, and there's the music. Everyone, we're talking to Mr. Kevin McCaffrey. He is the CEO and founder of Tr3dent. You can find more at our website, Tr3dent.com, and that's a 3 instead of the first E. But yeah, in the show notes, computeramerica.com, check it out. And in the meantime, everyone, we'll be right back. More Computer America right after this. Stay tuned.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 31 minutes past the hour as we continue on here, and we continue our conversation with our guest who, was so kind as to continue with us. So if you are just joining us, welcome into the Computer America Show. We are talking to Mr. Kevin McCaffrey. He is the founder and CEO of Tr3dent, and we are talking all about, kind of, some of this is kind of pie in the sky, but this is what you're doing, Kevin. This is what, this is the future of how businesses have to communicate with one another, and you're helping to visualize it. So I think that you were just about to get into, and, if I was looking to really search engine optimize this interview with you, let's throw out some buzzwords and how they relate to your product. Automation, Internet of Things, AI. What technologies are really helping drive this trend that you're seeing?
Well, I think IoT is a catalyst for a lot. I think it drives a lot of connectivity, which leads to a lot of data, which means a lot of people have to do different things with it. So certainly, within our product, we look at the companies that are using it and how they're using the product and the types of new digital services they're modeling. It's the vast majority is related to IoT services or IoT related services that they're putting in. On top of that, then when these companies are using these sensors, they're creating vast amounts of data. So being able to process that data effectively is important, and a lot of that now is being done, through the analytics and through artificial intelligence means. Ourselves, we've kicked off last year we kicked off an AI project where we're looking to start building and some deep learning on how people are creating business models and how they're creating their ecosystems so that it can help our users to understand and start to being able to add a certain amount of information and then it to predict what they want and being able to start making suggestions. So AI is going to be a very important element, across the board, and you can see that with the amount of investment that's been put in it by so many companies. So yeah, I think AI, IoT. What was the other one? I think there was one more.
AI, I believe you tried. You already mentioned, and automation.
Yeah. So from an automation point of view, it is interesting, when we talk to some people, they say, well, they just want to be able to put in a couple of little things and then immediately it creates everything for them. But I think, where we're specifically focused is in the area of strategic planning. So from that side, that requires collaboration. It requires working with different people. It requires input from different types of stakeholders, whether they're business or technical or financial. Um, so I still think that the concept of people being able to having to sit around a table or get on a call and start, whiteboarding and brainstorming and all of those kind of things, that's going to be around for quite a while yet.
Right. So let's talk about the future of Tr3dent and what you have going for you because actually we had a question that we kind of skipped over because, it kind of didn't make sense at the beginning. But now, do you have any notable achievements that, that you've already, kind of done with the company that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, well, I guess we founded the company in late 2014 in Ireland, and we within a year we had our first international customer. We launched a product about not first SaaS product about 18 months, about 6 months ago, and we've had there's a great sense of a great sense of satisfaction from taking something from a concept all the way through to launch, and then actually you know having successful sales across multiple verticals. So I think in the last 18 months we've done a lot. We've also had we had investment in the company, and we're looking over the next year to continue to build that. We're looking at opening a location in North America, and building the team as well. Which none of this can be done without a good strong team.
Right. Well, at least not until AI really does take off. But until then,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
you definitely do need the guys. So no, that sounds like quite an interesting challenge because again, and that's where you see Tr3dent going. Why don't we talk about just kind of where your field is heading because it's one of those things. I don't know if we have to pay you a consultation fee now that you're about to tell us, hopefully, but just for all of the people, individuals, companies out there that may be using your product soon. I mean, where do you see this heading? Is it truly Minority Report style information gathering, or is it something that, or a mix of current technologies that we just don't that are going to be taken to the nth degree?
Yeah, I think I don't think we'll be quite Minority Report or the hologram
Right.
level on Star Trek, but I think there is going to be a hybrid of uses. So we're currently working on using the holographic techniques through the Microsoft HoloLens on taking our data and being able to project that. And it's very interesting. We've been doing some test work with clients, and the feedback we got from them was essentially there was a guy who had a team of I think about 100 or so large big data site, large number of data scientists, and his view was that he could ask them his guys any question he wanted, and they'd give him the answer from the data. And then we took a sample of his data, showed it in a different way using a three-dimensional modeling, and he looked at it and he said, "Well, Kevin, I'm really worried now about the questions I'm not asking because I've seen my data in a different way." And to me, what's important isn't the answer; it's the question. And I think that applies to lots of different things. But when you're whether you're modeling an ecosystem, whether you're looking at your business model, the most important thing is to be able to come up with the questions you hadn't thought of previously sooner in the process. And that's one of the strengths our product does, and that can save people a lot of time and a lot of money.
Yeah, it's those questions that come when you have more information than, or extraneous information that you thought was maybe useless or not related. If you visualize it in the right way, you suddenly get a completely new and very important detail. And to kind of draw a relevance to current events, I'm sure that you saw it, Kevin, but I think it was just yesterday or the day before. Someone released the fitness tracking data
Yeah,
on a
yeah,
visualized on a map, and it conveniently showed some secret bases laid out in the Middle East, and even their floor plan on people walking, running trails, things like that. I mean, really, it just showed that, oh, this is tracking my steps. That's good. But then the information it was really gathering showed, everything down to floor plans. That seems like all this data that we can now gather thanks to the Internet of Things. You're going to be able to do a lot of new things, very, very soon or now.
Absolutely, and to be honest, humans are visual people. We like look. It's if you've got a list of words in front of you, or if you've got a spreadsheet or a table full of numbers, before before you can understand that information, you first have to interpret it. You have to look at it. You have to define it. While if you're looking at a picture, the brain can process that information, 10, 20 times quicker. And that means the person doesn't get tired or bored. And if it's something that also isn't PowerPoint, then it's even better, right? Because it's like anything but PowerPoint, right? People want they've just had it. And I think if you're able to do kind of achieve both things and improve the person's understanding of what they're looking at, enable them to ask more questions, that can add serious value for an organization, and especially as you move up the layers within the organization, so that your execs are able to look at something that they understand, and not look at detailed spreadsheets where they have to try and make critical business decisions based on.
So you're saying it's not just about adding transitions to your PowerPoint, it's actually changing the whole thing. So, and Kevin, I'll let you go ahead and have the last word. If people head on over to your website, I see here you have a 14-day trial. I'm not sure what that would outline for your customers, but what would people find at your website? And if people want to find out more, is the website the best place to go?
Yeah, the website's the best place to go. They can also, we've got there's some examples of some of the 3D visualization projects we've done on a videos in a YouTube channel. But I think, yeah, go to the website, have a look through it. You learn about the Transformation Accelerator product. You hear from there's testimonials from users in there. There's links to our partner channel and the work that they're doing on selling the product. And if you have any questions, just click on the more info, and an email will come through to one of the guys, and we'll respond to it very quickly.
Very, very cool. So, Kevin, I'm again apologize about the before the show thing, but I'm glad that we had you on, and this was a great conversation. I think, if memory serves right, we're getting close to midnight there in Scotland, Ireland. I'm sorry, but yeah, I thank you for taking time out of your day. I hope that you had fun, and again, thanks for coming on the show.
Appreciate it, Penn. Thank you very much. Really, really was a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, have a great one, and talk to you later. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, everyone. So there he goes. Yep, there you go. And yes, the interview brought to you by Skype. And again, you can find more at Tr3dent, Tr3dent.com. Check that out. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. So with that being said, if you missed any part of the show, by the way, feel free to head on over to our website or wherever you listen to podcasts, be it iTunes, of course, Google Play Store, iHeartRadio. Yeah, our episodes are available there in their entirety. So if you missed any part of that interview, feel free to go on back. But in the meantime, why don't we go ahead and jump back into computer and technology news to wrap up today's show. So here we go. Computer and Tech News brought to you by Fire Dragon Security. All right, so I think our first story that we're going to get into was this one, and I'm actually okay with this one because Facebook is banning ads, and really it just goes to show that Facebook is trying to tighten their grip on their advertising. They've certainly received a lot of criticism over what you can and cannot advertise, what you should and should not advertise. And looks like cryptocurrency is on the chopping block. And again, I kind of feel okay with this one. So Facebook bans ads promoting cryptocurrencies. And yes, that does include the big one, Bitcoin. So, this coming to us from Engadget, Mr. David Lum. And yeah, most of Facebook's recent advertising changes have tried to curb the danger of foreign government using the social network to influence elections, or in this case, we've seen it with other countries as well. Uh, Russia has gotten very good at using existing social media platforms and their advertising to influence public opinion for whichever way that they feel is best. We saw this with Brexit. We saw this in France. We saw this in the German elections. We saw this in, of course, our elections. We saw this time and time again. So, with that being said, though, the network is now banning all advertisements that promote cryptocurrencies because they are frequently associated with misleading or deceptive promotional practices. It's one of those things that I think when Bitcoin reached a certain level, people forgot its background. People forgot what Bitcoin was originally used for. And, like the very beginning seed of cryptocurrency, of Bitcoin, was this is something that no one can control, no one has purview over. It's open. You can look at these transactions, track money, but at the same time, you can't control the money. That was very appealing. That's a very noble idea. And then that idea was taken and used for certain purposes. We saw this with the Silk Road. We saw this with many other illicit or even illegal transactions or money laundering or any number of things. This was the original use this was some of the original users of Bitcoin were people who wanted a currency that could not be tracked or could not be pointed back at the person actually using it so they could buy certain things, be that drugs, be that weapons, be that really, again, bad things. And then we saw cryptocurrency take hold in ransomware. Ransomware really hit hard last year, started in 2015, 2016. And, again, this is a currency that you could request $500 in Bitcoin. You could request $1,000 in Bitcoin. And once they paid it, once it was in your wallet, it didn't matter after that because they couldn't get it back. You can't call someone and have the transaction reverse. It just happened. So it was used by hackers. It was used by ne'er-do-wells. And, after a certain point, I think people forgot that was some of the most popular uses for cryptocurrency. And they said, oh, look, this is a way to make money legitimately. And at the same time, that crowd of people who hack, who steal, who buy and trade illegal things, they still are using it more than ever because, first of all, they're flush with cryptocurrency because they've been invested in it for longer than you have. And, well, they are still up to their old tricks. And it's more profitable than ever. So when I say that it's okay for Facebook to ban cryptocurrency, in my personal opinion, I'm completely fine with it because of the fact that the people probably paying for advertising on Facebook to get, and again, Facebook, I think at this point is the closest thing we have to a general populace or a general population. Anyone who's trying to get cryptocurrency targeted at the general population, in most cases, it's not banks who are trying to push cryptocurrency onto the public. It's not investment firms looking to get new people to invest in cryptocurrency. In most cases, it's kind of the people who are illegally stealing cryptocurrency. They are stealing people's money using cryptocurrency. They are doing things that, a general population just would not have the technical understanding of cryptocurrency to really be wary of. So, again, I'm kind of okay with this. So, anyways, Facebook's newest ad policy also prohibits promotions for binary options and initial coin offerings, and the advertisements that seem like they're shouted by an online carnival barker, new ICO, initial coin offering, buy tokens at 15% discount now, reads one on Facebook's blog post as an example. So, yeah, it was certainly a way to get people who really didn't understand what they were buying, but they wanted to buy into the hype. So the article wraps up by saying, before you cry that some scammers are ruining the crypto game for everyone, Facebook admitted that this policy is intentionally broad while we work to better detect deceptive and misleading advertising practices. and they'll begin enforcing policies soon on the core platform. And they said that in the meantime, if you see a shady ad that Facebook algorithm did catch, you can always report it by clicking it in the upper right-hand corner. So, yeah, again, like they said, Facebook is purposely broad. They don't want to find themselves at the end of a legislative stick as they try to really come to terms with how influential their advertising can be. So, all right, so there's that one. And let's see. So we have a couple more stories to pick through. All right, how about this one? Let's talk about. Yeah. No. All right, here we go. Waymo. They're fun. Waymo, they are a self-driving car company. They are an offshoot of Google. You may remember a while ago, Google's self-driving car started the self-driving car craze. And yeah, Google spun them off through Alphabet into their own company, and they founded Waymo. Well, looks like Waymo actually might have aspirations of reaching the public, unlike so many Google projects. So, Waymo already turned 600 Chrysler Pacifica minivans into self-driving vehicles, but apparently those aren't enough for the company's upcoming taxi service. Right? Google is going to have a taxi service. So, the FCA US has revealed that it's supplying the former Google self-driving division with thousands of Chrysler Pacific minivans. There you go. And that delivery will begin in late 2018. Waymo will use the vehicles it's already testing to launch its ride-hailing service in Phoenix later this year, and the additional driverless minivans will be deployed to other cities where the service expands its reach. Folks, my God, we may actually see a service come out of Google that is actually successful. This is amazing. So, Waymo chief John Krafkick said in a statement that, quote, with the world's first fleet of fully self-driving vehicles on the road, we've moved from research and development to operations and deployment, and that Pacifica hybrid minivans offer a versatile interior and a comfortable ride experience that these additional vehicles will help us scale. There you go. And let's see. All right, so for those of you who are wondering, at what level is this autonomy? The company proved that it had reached level 4 autonomy in November 2017 when it started testing the minivans without a driver at the wheel. So level 4, I think, it's either level 4 or level 5. It's, turn your back on it, it's fine, the car's going to drive itself. That might be level 5. I think level 4 is you still have an engineer sitting in the wheel. But for the most part, it's self-driving. Anyways, they said that was also when the company announced that it's launching a driverless taxi service in the next few months, and that it will eventually cover a region that's larger than the size of Greater London. And that Waymo's additional order shows just how big and serious its plans are for its taxi fleet, blah, blah, blah. Essentially, they'll say that initially, they said an employee will initially be riding the car with you to hit the pullover button in case of emergency, but that will likely change. So for now, they have engineers in the car that kind of help facilitate and monitor the whole situation. And, they'll probably keep that for the next couple of years. But eventually, those are going to go away. And I would not be surprised at all if these minivans, the next generation of minivans, they do away with the driver's seat, they do away with the driver steering wheel, they do away with the gas pedal, the brake pedal, the front dash, they do away with the windshield. And you start to look like something where someone took a little conference room or a little movie theater and put it on wheels. That is probably going to be your next self-driving taxi service. So Google's working on it. Waymo looks like they're hot on getting everyone self-driving cars. And again, the quicker that this gets adopted by all the companies is the sooner that new people who want to come into the field, they start to come in as well. So it's going to be a snowball effect. and eventually it's just going to get out of control. But very cool to see Waymo, really getting out ahead of it. So, all right. I really want to do this story because next one, it's important because they're like the biggest phone manufacturer in the world. I don't think it's Apple anymore in terms of volume. I think it's still Huawei. I should really figure out how. Real quick. So yeah, it's Huawei. Hopefully, again, I'm saying that right. And Huawei. There we go. So it's pronounced Huawei, and because you did not know, Verizon says that Verizon won't sell Huawei phones due to the U.S. government pressure. And yeah, this is very interesting. So Verizon, here we go, coming out today from The Verge, and saying that Verizon won't sell any Huawei phones, including the new flagship Mate 10 Pro, because of pressure from the U.S. government, where an anonymous source told Bloomberg yesterday. Verizon declined to comment, and Huawei did not immediately respond. So, still speculative at this point, but kind of makes sense because tensions between the U.S. and Chinese governments, they're actually, pretty high when it comes to spying. So, Huawei has been trying to make a big push into the U.S. this year, but has found its efforts stymied by the U.S. government over concerns that the Chinese company could be a security threat, and that earlier this month, AT&T pulled out of a deal with Huawei to sell the Mate 10 Pro after receiving similar pressure. So we have AT&T, we have Verizon, and I guess that just leaves kind of like T-Mobile to see if they can make a deal. But again, it's the U.S. government really pushing back against these U.S. carriers from carrying these phones. So let's see. This article here is pretty long. We have a link to it in the show notes. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to finish it. Let's go ahead and just kind of skip ahead and say that last month, 18 lawmakers signed a letter asking the FCC chairman to look into Huawei's plans to sell consumer products in the U.S., citing concerns from congressional intelligence committees. And the FCC did not immediately respond to a request for comment. So one thing that I will say about this is that kind of like what happened with Kaspersky Labs and their anti-malware, they had a pretty big contract with the U.S. government, but they were shut out because, again, they had the name Kaspersky. They were Russian. And obviously, U.S. and Russia relations, same deal. They saw it as a security threat. While Kaspersky kind of has one of those things that they've been a reputable vendor of some of the best malware in the industry. And yeah, it's their reputation is sullied because their name sounds Russian and because they're from Russia, even though objectively nothing they did crossed any kind of line. They were punished for it by the U.S. government for having the name and from where they're from. And that's all well and good if Kaspersky was being, treacherous or treasonous or, just kind of weird. They turned over every bit of their source code to the U.S. government and proved that they weren't, but they still weren't. And I feel like Huawei is getting kind of the same treatment, was that just because they're a Chinese company, they are automatically, 100% for China and Chinese government, blah, blah, blah. And I know it sounds kind of counterintuitive, but that's just kind of the feeling I'm getting, is that because they're Chinese, we don't like their products. Even though most of our products come from China, because they have a Chinese sounding name, that's where we're going to stick to them. And I don't know, it's, I'm not saying that it's impossible for this to be some kind of, extreme surveillance project by the Chinese, but at the same time, I'm kind of saying that's highly unlikely. So anyways, that's that story. Huawei, good luck getting into the US, and everyone else out there, thank you for joining us here on Computer America. If you missed our guest Tr3dent, you can find more at the show notes, in the show notes at computeramerica.com, or feel free to head on over podcast version of the show. Folks, tomorrow we have a correspondent here with us, Mr. Scott Schober. He is our security correspondent, and it's going to be a great show. Tune in tomorrow, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. And let's see. Folks, enjoy the moon tonight. As I understand it, there's a super blue blood moon. Whatever the heck that is, check it out if you're on the West Coast. Lucky you. Everyone else, check out those live streams. There will be people, including NASA, is going to be live streaming the moon event. Folks, enjoy it. Tune in tomorrow, and have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.